I was at this concert with a few friends, and we were having an awesome time. You know how it goes. Loud music, dancing, drinks flowing. We were at the bar getting our second round when this guy approached us. He seemed pretty normal, just chatting us up, asking about the band. He was kind of cute, so I didn't mind the conversation. And when he offered to buy us drinks, we didn't think anything of it. He handed me a cocktail, and at first, everything seemed fine. But after just a few sips, I started feeling weird, like way more drunk than I should have been. My vision got blurry, my legs felt like jelly, and I couldn't focus on anything. I remember my friends telling me I needed to sit down, but then that guy, the one who bought the drinks, he was right there again. He kept telling me to come with him, that he'd help me get some air. In my dazed state, I agreed. But as we were walking out of the venue, something didn't feel right. My friends were calling my name, but the guy kept pulling me along, telling them I was fine. I remember him leading me to his car, and that's when it hit me. Something was seriously wrong. My body wasn't responding the way it should, and the more I tried to think, the foggier everything became. When we got to his car, he opened the door and tried to push me inside, but something inside me snapped. Even though I was dizzy and confused, I knew I couldn't get in that car. I stumbled back, telling him no, that I needed to find my friends. But he kept insisting, his tone getting more aggressive, like he was annoyed with me for resisting. I don't know how, but I managed to break away and ran back towards the crowd. I could barely see straight, but somehow I found my friends. They took one look at me and knew something was off. We tried finding the guy afterward, but he was gone, vanished into the crowd. I went home that night, still shaky and terrified, and it wasn't until the next morning that I realized just how close I'd come to being taken. I never saw him again, but I still wonder what would have happened if I hadn't run. This is probably one of the scariest nights of my life, and I've honestly never gone to another concert since. It was supposed to be a fun night out with my boyfriend and his friends. We were at this huge music festival, packed crowd, lights everywhere, but it had such a fun, high-energy vibe. We were right in the middle of the crowd, dancing, singing along to the band, when I noticed him. Just a guy standing there, maybe 10 feet away, staring. At first, I didn't think much of it. You know how crowded concerts are. Sometimes people just end up staring off in your direction. But then, I started noticing that no matter where I moved, he moved too. He wasn't looking at anyone else, just me. He had this dead look in his eyes, like he wasn't even enjoying the music, just watching. I told my boyfriend about it, but he brushed it off, saying I was being paranoid. I tried to ignore it too, but every time I looked over, the guy was closer. By the third song, he was only a couple feet behind us. At one point, I turned around and he was standing right next to me, like he was trying to blend in with our group. I could feel his breath on my neck. That's when I started to panic. I grabbed my boyfriend's arm and told him we needed to leave the crowd. But the guy kept following us. We'd stop, and he'd stop. We'd move, and he'd move. It was like some creepy shadow. I thought maybe it was just a coincidence, but then, during one of the songs, I felt a hand brush across my back. I turned around, and there he was, his face inches from mine, grinning, not saying a word, just smiling this horrible, twisted smile. I told my boyfriend to get security, but as soon as we started walking towards one of the exits, the guy bolted. I didn't see him again that night, but the whole thing left me shaken. I don't know what his deal was, but the way he watched me, like he was waiting for something, I still get chills thinking about it. So, this happened a couple of months ago at a concert I'd been dying to go to. It was a huge outdoor event, lots of people, amazing energy. I went with a couple of my girlfriends. Everything was fine at first. We were vibing to the music, taking pictures, just having a good time. Then, out of nowhere, this photographer approaches us. He wasn't with the concert staff, at least I don't think he was. He had this big camera, like professional quality, but no badge or anything official. At first, he just asked if he could take our picture. Seemed innocent enough, right? We were already taking photos, so we figured why not. He snapped a few shots of all of us and then started complimenting me specifically, like over-the-top compliments. That's when things started to get weird. He wouldn't stop focusing on me. He told my friends to step out of the shot so he could get some solo shots of me. I felt awkward, but my friends were laughing like it was all a joke, so I went along with it. But every time I tried to move away, he would insist on taking just one more picture. I started feeling uneasy because his compliments got way too personal. Stuff like, "Your eyes are hypnotizing," or "You've got such a perfect face for photos." But it wasn't the flattery that scared me. It was the way he said it, almost hungry. I told him I was done and tried to walk back to my friends, but the guy wasn't taking the hint. He just kept following me. I told my friends, and they started noticing how off this guy was. He'd stand just outside our group, staring at me through his lens, snapping pictures when I wasn't even looking. When I made eye contact with him, he'd grin like he knew something I didn't. I was getting seriously freaked out at this point. We decided to move further into the crowd, hoping to lose him, but he followed us the whole time. He never once tried to interact with anyone else, just me. I told a security guard about him, but by the time we found one, the guy had disappeared. I thought that was the end of it. But when I got home later that night, I checked my Instagram. You know how it suggests people you might know? The creepy photographer's face was right there with a follow request. His profile was filled with hundreds of photos, all of girls at concerts, and buried in one of his posts. There I was, staring back at myself, in a photo I never gave him permission to take.